Oi, tudo bem? Tudo bom? Bom dia? That's all I have in Portuguese. But the tudo bem was good, right? Okay. Thank you very much for showing up after what might have been a night of drinking to hear a foreigner come and talk about IT experience. I am beyond happy to be here for 3 reasons. First of all, I'm stoked to be in Brazil. Like, you probably have heard this, but Brazil is known as one of the coolest countries in the world. And when I was in high school, my best friend was actually from here in São Paulo. He was an exchange student, and he was an amazing dude. And so I never thought I'd come here, so I'm really excited to come here. I'm also excited because this conference is about experience, and experience to me is not only now what I do for a living, I think it's what I had hoped and prayed a movement that I hoped and prayed would come to IT. You know, this move from, yes, service is good, but what about the experience? So I'm beyond excited that there's a whole conference about that. I hope that the US follows suit. But I'm also excited, I guess, to be here talking for the same reason that I was excited to write a book and that I even, have any status in IT whatsoever. That reason is it was so unlikely that I would ever even have a job in IT, much less be here in a different country speaking to a bunch of IT leaders like yourselves. It's been a real adventure, And like most of adventures that I've had in my life, my IT adventure started because of love and because of money and because I fell in love and didn't have any money, which if you've ever been in that situation is a very hard situation to be in. What happened was I didn't study computer science like a lot of you. I didn't know what IT even stood for. I didn't know what the letters IT stood for until I was 30 years old. I have 2 degrees in psychology, and I was focused not on technology, but I was focused on life, on real life experience. Like, what is life about? After those degrees, I was like, well, maybe life isn't perfect in the US. So I went and lived in Europe for a year. Then I lived in Central America for a year. Unfortunately, Central America, so I only speak Spanish. But I traveled around and I just tried to figure out life, and I came back, didn't have any money, met a very rich girl in San Francisco, and my friend said, why don't you get a job in IT? And I said, that sounds cool. What is IT? And he told me it had to do with computers, and I said, that sounds great. I'm an artist. I know Max a little bit. And he got me a job at this place called Pivotal Labs. If you're a software developer, you might have heard of it. But it was literally one of the smartest room of engineers in San Francisco. At the time, they were actually building Twitter. And every time that this happened, every time that Brazil scored a goal, he told me the engineers would cry because the site would go down. So every World Cup, the Twitter engineers were sitting there drinking beer, just praying, no offense, but praying that Brazil did not score a goal. Because every time they did, everyone just tweeted, goal! And it was a wrap. And then this site went down. And so if you remember that, you remember what Twitter was going down was all about. I loved it at Pivotal. It was awesome. I didn't know anything, so I just went home every day and Googled all the things I didn't know. I would go through the day asking everyone what was broken, go home, Google how to fix it. And over time, I actually learned how to fix computers, and it was cool. And I'm like, whoa, you can do this for a living. This is dope. I'm very excited. So I went and got my first adult job at Jawbone, and I still knew nothing. And the IT guy who had worked at Jawbone before me had quit, so there was no one to tell me how to do IT. So I just asked the CEO, hey, what do you want from IT? And I asked the assistants, and I asked the chiefs of staff, and I asked the marketing team and the sales team, what do you want from IT? It turns out that is a very good strategy for learning how to do IT. The fact that I knew nothing about ITIL, the fact that I knew nothing about first contact resolution or all the other ITSM metrics, it was a huge gift. And to be honest, we actually did give them gifts. Like, to me, I didn't know what IT experience was normally, so I thought, what's a great experience? Falling in love is a great experience. Going to the Ritz-Carlton, a fancy hotel, a Michelin star restaurant is a great experience. Let's just do that for IT. I didn't know IT was supposed to be boring. So when it was time to roll out Macs and have everyone switch from Windows to Macs, if you've ever done that, not a lot of people love that at first. They were scared about it. So we bought these big bows, we put them on the Macs, and we imaged them, and we paired them with all their Bluetooth devices, and we gave them a great experience. And they were like, oh, this is nice. And then we walked by and said, hey, I just want to make sure that you know how to be the fastest Mac user. And we sat down and we gave them these trainings for all the keyboard shortcuts, and we walked them through that. And they had a great experience. One time, one of the executive assistants she told me for 2 years where her executive liked to sit, the Wi-Fi was horrible, and IT had done nothing about it. So I said, great, I'm IT now, and I just got a ladder, came up, put an access point right over her head. Problem solved. She was really stoked. We did things like that over and over again. I think my favorite story was when, the MacBook Air came out. How many people remember when the MacBook Air first came out? Well, the MacBook Air is a computer from Apple, and it's really thin and skinny. And if you're as old as me and you worked in San Francisco, every executive had to have it, now. They had to have it right away. And so we decided to get it for our CEO. Our CEO happened to be in London, so we were like, okay, great, we'll ship it to you. When do you need it by? And he's like, I need it by tomorrow. And so we found a service that would take this MacBook Air and throw it overnight from San Francisco to London. I think we got it there in 9 hours, and he was able to get what he needed. And everyone at Jawbone said, Ben, this is the greatest IT experience we have ever had. To this day, they still let me know that this is the best IT experience they ever had. And so how did I do that? By knowing nothing about IT and just asking the business what they wanted, how did that create a great IT experience? And it turns out the fact that I didn't know how IT should be and the fact that I asked the business first is a great strategy for IT experience. And it happened not because I was great at IT, but they perceived me as being great at IT. It happened not because I was perfect, but because I'd built a relationship with them that when I made mistakes, they were like, oh, it's okay. Ben's team is great. Everyone makes mistakes. Because we had that great relationship. And to be honest, the reason everyone loved my IT team when I had no idea what IT was because their expectations were so low. It was easy to wow them, And what a lot of us don't understand is the bar is quite low for IT. And I think one of the reasons for that is, I don't know about the HDI Brazil, forums online, but in the US, the HDI forums and on LinkedIn, someone will post something like, hi, I got a new job today. I want to know what everyone is doing for X. Or I want to know what the best practice is for this situation. And we have this thing in IT where we want to know what everyone else is doing. What is everyone else doing? What are you doing? What is the normal way to do things? The normal way to do things, if that's your goal for excellence, you're never going to be able to innovate. How many people have heard of watermelon metrics? Watermelon metrics refers to the IT metrics that we use that they look all green and beautiful, and you can have perfect IT metrics, nail every single category, perfect mean time to resolution, perfect first contact resolution, and everything you do is perfect. But people can still hate IT and think IT is the worst because we're not measuring how things land. And that is really the key to IT experience. That is what we have been missing this whole time. Because those are the metrics we use, IT sees IT as green because we have this dope dashboard that that looks all green. It's all in the 90s. CSAT, 99. First contact resolution, 90%. Whatever the good metrics are. You can tell I don't like those metrics. I make my own. But if you don't measure how the business sees IT, there's gonna be some confusion there. It's not gonna be great. Here's how we got to this place, and then we'll talk about how to get out of it. Like, we got to this place where IT thinks they're way better than the business because we started out fine. We've got systems. We've got email. We have an Exchange server. Great. Make sure that system runs great. Cool. Okay. So then we're like, okay, well, technology is a little hard for some people, so let's add a service desk. So then we're like, okay, now we've really made the perfect IT organization. The systems are great, the service is great, it's awesome. But we know from the statistics that that's still not impressing the people that we serve. It's not giving them the Ritz-Carlton experience because there's this whole other dimension of experience. This is what experience is. It's not service. It's not your systems. It's not what you do. And I'm going to say that 3 times. It's not what you do. Experience is not what you do. Experience is not what you do. It's this dimension of how those things land. At Jawbone, when I did the best IT experience that anyone had ever seen, it wasn't about what we did. It was about how it landed with our customers. And you talk about watermelon metrics, like this is the state of IT service management right now. And if you ask Gartner, McKinsey, Forrester, any research organization, they'll tell you the same. We look at our metrics and we think we're green. The experience is red. And with the coming AI and technology, that's a problem. Because experience is the one thing that humans can do that computers can't. So if our careers are going to last, we need to start focusing on that red part, right? We need to start focusing on how the business sees IT. And because we've already mastered the service metrics and the systems, that needs to be our number one priority, okay? Oops. Sorry, I got thirsty, so let's go to the bar. Take a break. We're gonna go to a bar, we're gonna talk about the caipirinha, right? The caipirinha, very simple. Did anyone have one last night? One person. I saw like 25 at least. Did anyone have a caipirinha last night? Thank you for your honesty, I appreciate that. I will have many with you tonight if you would like. Please come say hi. A caipirinha, very simple. What is it? It's a cocktail. What is it made out of? Lime, sugar, cachaca, or apparently here like vodka or anything, I didn't know that, and a little lime wheel. Very simple, right? Experience is just as simple as that. Like the anatomy of experience is just as simple. What is experience? It's a feeling. It's not a metric. It's nothing you do. And you're going to want to reflect on that throughout today because the biggest fear I have for experience is that it's going to do what digital transformation did. I don't know about in Brazil, but in the US, digital transformation was a very popular topic that nobody was able to define. I would talk to 20 CIOs and hear 40 different definitions of what digital transformation was. And as a result, McKinsey, the research firm, did a study and found out that in 2021, 73% of digital transformations failed. 73%. That's what happens when you don't define something. So if this whole conference has talked about experience, you need to know what experience is, right? And Gartner published this recently. By 2025, 50% of companies are going to have an experience tool, an experience team. Like, IT is not going to get out of that. It's not going to happen. If you look at these stats too, these kind of show you why I'm concerned especially. We don't know what we don't know. Only 55% of incidents that are happening have ever been reported. So you don't even know what's breaking on your network. Furthermore, over one-third of people have not reached out to your IT team. So if you're looking at your metrics and you're looking at tickets, you're missing a third of the people you support. And that's a problem. And so what I want to do is just put experience in English. If you talk about experience this weekend and you're talking about metrics, if you're talking about SLAs, if you were talking about anything that sounds IT speak, anything that your wife or husband who is not in IT would be bored about, that's a problem. This is what experience is. It's a human experience. An amazing IT experience. It's not about metrics. It's fantastic. It blows people away. And I'm going to define it for you. This is where you want to take the picture or download the slides. This is what experience is. This is it. It's human. Experience is a feeling that results from how perceptions meet expectations. That's it. It's not what you do. It's how it's perceived. It's not even how it's perceived necessarily that leads to a great experience, but how it's perceived based on the expectations. And you can't even control the expectations. A lot of people expect IT to be horrible. So it's easy to exceed those expectations. But if you have a great IT team and then you go to another company, you're going to fall below. And expectations actually change over time. So for instance, if you marry the most beautiful man or the most beautiful woman you've ever seen in your life, after 3 months, they're just your spouse because you get used to them. Same thing with IT. Even if you come up with a great plan and you wow and everyone loves IT, people are going to get used to that, and you have to keep on wowing them. You have to keep on raising the bar. And, it's, again, if there's one thing that I want to tell you today, experience, the cocktail of experience, whatever analogy you want to use, is simple. When we're talking about experience, it's the perception. If you want to measure experience, you should be measuring the perception. If you're measuring stuff that you do, you're not measuring experience, the perception of what people have. And if you want an amazing experience, you need to exceed those expectations, which means you need to know what those expectations are. And I apologize, but you will have to talk to humans. And for IT, sometimes that is a scary prospect. But you will have to talk to humans and say, what are your expectations? Get to know them. And this is the relationship part is probably the part that most people struggle with the most. I talk to CIOs now. I used to, after I worked at Jawbone, and then I worked at Twitter, we started scaling up. We added all the metrics. The experience went way down. And I was like, that's where I came up with QStack. I'm like, we need a way to measure the experience. And that was long ago. I went and I used QStack, the tool that I made at Yahoo. We were able to go on a pretty good trajectory that we won some awards for. It was pretty great. Now that I'm talking to CIOs rather than running IT, what I realize is people are not comfortable with the idea of relationships. In English, they say the word they say is squishy. It's a squishy word. You're like, I'm an IT leader. I talk about metrics. I talk about digital transformation. I talk about servers. I don't talk about relationships. But tough shit. Like if you are in IT, you are in a relationship with the business, whether you want to or not. And if you didn't listen to anything in this talk, but just the following story, I think this would help change your minds. And I hope you use this analogy with your teams when you go back to work to explain to them what experience is and is not. But we won't talk about IT. We'll talk about just like a normal relationship. So let's say there was one guy who he was in love with this girl and things weren't going well. They've been dating for 2 years and he can tell like she's not happy. So he's like, okay, I'm going to be the best boyfriend that there has ever been. And then he was a numbers-driven guy, probably an IT guy, and he was like, okay, I'm going to buy her more flowers than last year. So last year, I bought her a dozen roses. This year, I'm going to buy her 3 dozen roses. I'll be 3 times as good of a boyfriend. And last month, I took her on 3 dates. We went dancing 3 times. Next month, I'm going to take her out 6 times. We're going to go dancing more than once a week. It's going to be great. And for her birthday last year, I remember I bought her, I spent about $100 on, like a nice dinner. This time, I'm going to spend $500 and buy her a necklace. So he was trying to max out all of his metrics. Like on paper, he was in the green. And she broke up with him. And he could not understand why. He was so confused. Like, I did everything. I bought you more roses. We did more things. I did all the metrics right. And she said, first of all, I don't like roses. I like daisies, and I've told you that 3 times, and you don't listen. Second of all, we've been fighting about money, and we can barely pay the rent, and you spend $1,000 on a necklace. And I've been working so hard to pay rent that all I want to do is sit at home, and you always want to take me out dancing. And she ended it, and it blew his mind. And he sounds like not a smart guy, but that is what it is like at so many IT departments. So many IT departments are like, listen, we follow ITIL to the T. We do everything. We have email. We've switched over to G Suite, or we have Office 365. We've done everything, and all of our ITSM metrics are great. And the business is like, I don't care about metrics. I don't give a shit about metrics. I want my stuff to work, and I want a good experience. And as you listen to the sessions, which we have amazing speakers today, as you listen to these sessions, keep reminding yourself, forget what I know. It's not about what I do. It's not about metrics. Experience has nothing to do with metrics. Throw your CSAT score in the trash. Throw your you should still measure other metrics and efficiency metrics, but it's about the relationship. It really, really is. The perception, the expectations, and the relationship. Oops, you're not getting off that easy. One more slide. So this is what happened when I went to Yahoo, and I had invented QStack, and I had a great CIO at the time. I had done QStack at Box, which is like the Dropbox competitor, but it was a very small company. And the CIO of Box got hired at Yahoo, and he said, Ben, I need you to come do your QStack thing. So I came and did my QStack thing. And you can see right here where we started off, pretty low. We were kind of in the basic area. The communication, what was the score that was in criminal. These are tracking quality, speed, technical knowledge, approachability, communication. We only tracked experience. Yes, we had the other metrics, but for the CEO of Yahoo, when the CIO had to say, this is how we're doing this quarter, it was Marissa Mayer at the time, he showed her this. And he said, communication's here, approachability is here, productivity is here. And she actually paid attention because it was an IT slide that wasn't boring. And we held ourselves to that standard. And we said, I don't care what your other metrics look like. This is what matters. And it took a long time. And you can see there were some down quarters, but quarter after quarter, we ended up getting to this world-class level. And when we did it, guess what? Everyone's lives got a lot better. It wasn't, yes, we won HDI awards. We won HDI Continual Service Improvement. We won HDI Technician of the Year once for the country, and one runner-up for the country. It was really great for IT, but who it was really great for is the Yahoo employees. They loved IT so much that they welcomed them in. They said, IT, you're like a part of you're not just a service, you are like a part of the Yahoo family. And it was beautiful. And guess what? The mental health of my team would go up because being in IT is hard. And when you come to work and everyone loves you, that's amazing. And when people love you and when you exceed their expectations and you have that relationship, even when you mess up, they still love you. And it allows everyone to just build and build. And when we got the trust of the business, of course, we implemented AI. We did all the cool technical stuff. But the highlight of my IT career was definitely at that 2 years when we reached that peak. And I got to tell my team, I think it was like 120 IT support people around the globe, each one of you get to go home tonight to your girlfriend, to your boyfriend, your friend, your dog, whoever you live with, and say, listen, I am the best in the world at what I do. And being the best in the world at what you do is amazing, especially when it matters to the people you're supporting. Having the best ITIL implementation is not that cool because nobody knows what that is outside of IT. But having the best IT experience is absolutely the best. And I want that for all of you. And if I can do that knowing nothing about IT, you can. So just remember, today when we talk about experience, it is all about not what you do, it's about perception, it's about expectations, and it's about a relationship. Think like a human. If you have IT thoughts, shun them away, and you'll do fine. I hope some of that made sense. I'm truly honored to be here today, and I hope that your conference is absolutely amazing. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Take care.